We need to raise the standard and continue to raise the standard from the ground up.
Your past conditioning, your beliefs, you need to dump that and unlearn it and make room and opportunity for new stuff to come in.
If you're feeling that feeling at all within your gut, you need to go with it.
You have to have those people on your team who are willing to accept the change, because change is frustrating. All right, we are back with a long overdue episode of the Apps and Asphalt podcast. We apologize. It's been a crazy past, 6 months, 8 months?
Way too long.
Yeah. So we apologize. We made the commitment to you guys in December that we were going to get back on it. And actually, that was the beginning of this year. And, you know, we have some big changes that had happened, which we're going to talk about a lot today. But you know, we're trying to get committed. So if you guys can help us, hold us accountable, so that way we can continue to get on here and share some of our knowledge or experiences. You know,
we're going to hold ourselves accountable.
We have
every 2 weeks. I say no more than every 2 weeks. We're dropping a new episode.
I love that. So
work.
Yeah, David's got to help us out with that too. So now that the dust has settled, for you guys who follow our paving company, National Pavement Partners, we were recently acquired by a company called Pave America. And, you know, we're first and foremost excited and honored to be part of this group. You know, Pave America is a group of 35 companies of, you know, just world-class, top of the game companies. So for us to be involved and part of this is amazing.
It's an honor, for sure. For sure.
And just, you know, we want to talk about the journey of how that all came to fruition now that we're able to, you know, kind of speak light to it. Also, maybe kind of squash some of the stereotypes of what it's like, you know, being a or being a private equity owned company too.
Totally.
Because I know a lot of people have kind of a bad taste in their mouth about it. So we want to kind of explain that. Then also, you know, just share the experience. So if you guys are ever looking to exit or sell your business, you kind of see a perspective and get kind of the groundwork. Because I know that's a big question.
Absolutely. There's different ways to sell. Some people partner up in different ways with, you know, an exit later on in the future. Some people sell and want to be completely out. You know, there's totally different ways to be acquired or sold or merged. For that matter. So we can talk about a few of those as well.
Let's do it. Yeah. Well, let's take it back, man. Let's talk about how this even came to fruition. We'll give you kind of your perspective, and I'll give mine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So 2020, maybe it was 2021, I was approached by Tom York from Pavement Partners at the time. He wanted to meet and discuss potential partnership or merger with National Pavement Partners at the time. I was at a show on the East Coast, and he and I went and had breakfast, and, you know, I was full transparency. I was nervous because I had never had these conversations before. I'd been through or seen what an acquisition looked like as my parents' company was bought out, but it was different scale, different type, and all that good stuff. So had an idea, but nothing really too crazy in terms of what to expect. As we talked and discussed things, I felt like we weren't really at a place at that moment to go through an acquisition. I didn't think our EBITDA number was where I wanted it to be for my mom and I to exit at a good point. I don't think like I was ready to let go yet. I felt like there's more to do. And so I, you know, respectfully told him, hey, let's maybe revisit this in a few years' time and see what happens. But it was pretty amazing on what Tom York was putting together. One of the things that caught my attention right off the bat was the fact that he had acquired Turner Asphalt. And so in our space, if you're doing asphalt, concrete, paving, or maintenance, you know who Wayne Turner is. He is like a pillar and just a staple within our industry. And so that really had my attention, number one, because he's a very respected man. And if he's doing business with this guy and this company and believes in this vision, you know, maybe it was something to pay attention to in the future. So, you know, we pressed pause on that idea, though, for quite some time, you know, several years, and then just really kept working on the craft and wanted to mold the business and become better and better and hopefully get it to the place where it was a better, more healthy exit when the time came.
Right. And I remember 2019 was like a big growth push year where we brought on a ton of new equipment, crews. Yeah. So when you're making that jump, you got to almost kind of have a couple years to get your feet back under you. So 2020 was definitely a good get your feet under you year. It was by far probably one of our best growth years too. We doubled that year. So I think that the timing was right. So, and then, fast forward last year, we were talking, going back and forth, and I think it was like the week before, Zach's like, I'm not selling. Like, we're sticking this out, man. We're going to finish this. Let's do it.
Yep.
And so we were all in, and then sure shit, next week a phone call comes in from my buddy Brandon.
To you.
Leon, with Alpha Paving in Dallas, and he's like, hey, man, Pave America's reached out to me and said, no, we've talked before, and they really want to talk to you guys about potentially selling and seeing just where you're at, just having a conversation. And so talk with Zach, kind of molded over for like a day or two. But
kind of talked me into having a conversation.
Which that's all kind of takes.
If you know me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't like to waste my time very much.
Right.
Especially on something that I don't really want to do. But he was like, no, let's have a conversation with them. You should at least hear him out. I was like, okay, yeah, let's hear him out.
So we heard him out, and that's when the whole thing kind of kicked off. So
it was.
What's amazing is at that point is, like, I swear the floodgates open for different companies trying to reach out to us to acquire. It's almost like word spreads that you're on the market without officially listing on the market, because we had a whole bunch of companies reach out. And,
Yep. One of the consultants we were working with at the time had been through an acquisition a few years prior. He brought a very strong player to the table. We had another one that reached out as well. And all of these things were very scary, because you hear about private equity and you're like, man, these guys don't know our business. They come in, they change everything. It's none of our guys are happy. Everything has changed. The culture's changed, and everything that you built is then just gone. Those were some of the things that I was thinking in the back of my head, like, man, is this true? Is this what's going to happen? Is, our legacy, what we've built and everything that we put into it, is that going to go away? And I mean, we're how many months into this now? 5 months into this post-acquisition, and I can strongly say that absolutely not. I mean, if you partner with the right firm or the right company, the right team, it can exemplify what you've got in the tank. I mean, for us, it's made us that much better in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, what I noticed is people get kind of scared because there's that bad connotation, like, private equity is going to cut costs and, fire everybody or get rid of a whole bunch of people, and, you're going to run out of work, and they just want to, take up market share. There's different approaches to different private equity companies. But, for Pave America, what we really liked was they want to continue to grow. And so there was no cutting costs. There was no cutting labor. They want to keep everybody in and growing with equipment, with crews, with processes. So it was kind of a eye opener to see, like, oh, there is multiple approaches to this.
Totally.
Like, it's night and day difference. So
cracking up too. I said exemplify. I meant exude. I catch myself sometimes, and I'm like, man, I'm a little rusty. It's been a few months.
Right. Try to sound smart, right? I get it.
Oh my gosh, man.
So let's talk about kind of like the full process of it. So you have kind of like, and this is what we went through. I don't know if it's cookie cutter, but it's pretty similar.
Yeah, probably not going to be the same for every single company, but yeah, very similar.
So you have, kind of your initial conversations. They're seeking, are you interested in selling? Are you not? Kind of give me some rough background, numbers of where you guys are at.
What do you want to do post-transaction? What does life look like for you post-transaction?
As the owner.
Yep. Go through what type of equipment do you have? What do you need? What type of team do you have currently? What do you need moving forward?
So it's almost kind of like surface level stuff.
Yeah, it is.
And then
it's almost like like a colonoscopy to a degree.
once you get to due diligence,
once you get into it.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's actually not terrible. It's like what we really enjoyed about it is the team that we worked with literally held our hand through every single step. I
Right.
mean, they worked every bit as hard as we did to get us through that, to get us through the finish line, knowing how hard it is. And so that was one of the things too. I mean, like, God, we couldn't have picked a better team because like Brandon, Jerome, Cliff,
Cody.
they have been,
Yep.
yeah, their entire team. I know they're the faces that we were working with, but they made things very digestible for us.
Right.
You know?
And so you sign, you go through, kind of give them the initial stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They'll provide you with a LOI, which is letter of intent to purchase.
Yep.
And then once you sign that, that's kind of their initial
Based on
offer.
preliminary financials that you've
Right.
given them. Yeah, right. So
And then once you sign that, then that's when the due diligence starts. But, the biggest thing that I've learned, and this is a good lesson for everybody, is like if you are looking to exit at some point in time, make sure you're organizing your stuff in a way that you can find it. Like think with the end in mind, because they will literally ask for everything from sales data, marketing data, legal data, licenses, it's you name it.
Totally.
So the better organized and prepared you can get now, if that is something in the near future that you're looking to do,
yep.
I would highly encourage that, because for the most part, we were pretty organized, but there was still a lot of stuff where we were like,
Oh yeah.
oh God, we got to put together this report or do some homework and digging. And
All the more reason why, and we say it all the time, but investing into like a technology that supports you from an ERP system through everything else. You guys got to have something that makes finding things very easy and being able to run reports and finding out, not only who your top clients are, but what demographic your top clients are.
Yep.
How much of your business is repeat business versus new business, what's general construction versus, private commercial type work. So many
all the
different
different
things.
segments, which makes sense because that shows them, do you fit their model
Yep.
of what they're going after, the kind of work that they like to see. And I think too is another really relieving thing is like when they came in to visit, we were all, nervous and uptight, like had to look perfect, but they understand that how hard it is to run this kind of business, like all the stuff that's required, even some of like the safety stuff and the reports and environmental reports, like stuff we've never even heard of. They ask if we have it, we tell them no. They're like, okay.
Yep.
It's not, you don't have to have a million different things in order just to be acquired. They will help you with that after, which is what Pave America's done.
Right.
So,
right.
It just depends on the private equity group, but for Pave America, they're very understanding of all the different stuff that maybe we were missing or didn't have.
Yeah.
That you just got to let them know up front, like, you know what? No, I've never even heard of that.
And it was really important for both of us to partner and pick a team that would be a good fit for us culturally as well too. Like what fits within our realm. Like we aspire to be world class in a lot of ways, and we're in construction. We fall short in at certain times things happen, but we've always aspired to it. We've always like had that on the horizon. That's where we're going, no matter what. And it's just continues to move further and further. So,
right.
That's one thing that I noticed about them as well too, in some of our just core values was, keeping the needle moving forward and continuing to carve on the craft, and then just surrounding yourself with great performers and hard workers, that are dedicated.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, that due diligence period for us was like end of January to end of April, pretty much. So it was like tied up on top of the day-to-day stuff that we had to do, getting ready for season. So it was a lot.
So it was end of January through the end of April. And then previously to that, there was a few months leading up to it of just getting into the LOIs and everything. So
still collecting the financials
and stuff like that. So it was probably a good 7-month process, I would say.
Yeah, overall from, really start to finish.
If we picked a different time, maybe not during holidays with Christmas and New Year's there, it could have probably been crunched down to like more of like a 6-month time span.
Right.
But I felt like overall it went pretty well and pretty smooth.
Definitely. And it's so, once we closed, I think on, was it April 30th? Officially went to paper that day. And then, after that is integration. So there's a couple different major systems that we switched over, like our payroll system, our front end ERP system, which fortunately we've already worked towards that. Mm-hmm. Then we did, Samsara and Limbo with our, fleet management, shop expense tracking system, the new insurances. So there's definitely a lot of stuff that you still have to integrate on top of the day-to-day business. So that's why we've been spread too thin to even think about this. I mean, we were going home some Fridays spent.
A lot of the stuff that we talked about in our previous podcasts, though, were pretty spot on with what they needed, like in terms of job costing, tracking, knowing all these different things. Like, had we not been in those places, like this wouldn't have happened.
100%.
We absolutely needed to have those things in place. So
all
the more reason for companies who are, and I get it, mom and pop, and you make what you make. It's bid on this and this, and we know what our square footage price is and all that stuff. Knowing where all of your money is coming from and where you're making it, you got to have that stuff locked in prior to an acquisition to make it smooth. And then not only that, but to get what you're worth at that time too.
Right.
Because there's even some stuff that I'm like, man, I didn't really think of that. Like, we could have sharpened that up. It didn't make enough sense for us to waste another year or two sharpening it up because they were understanding about it. But there are things that we definitely could have done better ourselves,
Right, yeah. And it was almost... No, a lot of companies I've heard have prepared for multiple years to sell, and we were like... Let's just go. So
kind of like everything, huh?
Yeah, kind of like everything. So like we didn't have the end in mind in that sense. I think you as the owner knew one day you'd want to sell.
Yeah, totally.
Just didn't know when.
Totally.
So what was it? What was kind of the emotion of the day you guys closed on April 30th for you and your mom being the owners?
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. It took probably a month for things to settle in.
Yeah. Because
we were just at the beginning of May. Production was just ramping up. We had new people coming in left and right. There was not a time to really even like digest it fully.
Right. Yeah.
So it took probably a month, but once it did, I was like, holy smokes, like I'm actually not responsible for the payroll anymore. Not responsible. I mean, we are, but it's not coming out of a checking account that I own anymore.
Right.
Yeah. It was pretty insane. It was just a huge weight lifted off in terms of having somebody share responsibility in the liability of the company with you, because there's still things that I'm responsible for and things that are very important to me still as as a partner in this, but it's not the same as it was when it was just my mom and I,
right?
And, like you, to take on all the whiplash from behind of that,
the burden of it, I guess.
Exactly.
So yeah, and I would say the same thing. I was going
to ask you what, like from your point of view though, like what has been some of the best pieces to it all?
I'll talk about first is like what I expected it to be like versus what it was actually like. I remember we were like early April and coming to the finish line of it, and I was thinking, what are we gonna do when this is all done? Like, we go into the club, we pop in some bottles, what are we doing? And literally what's funny is we signed, it was like on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we literally had a meeting with Pave America that same day
Yep.
and was straight to business.
Back to
which almost was, kind of a blessing in disguise because there is a lot of work to do. Also, season was ramping up. It was right when, we were getting all the crews in, so we had a whole bunch of stuff going on. But it wasn't, I would say, like the delay in the realization of like what we actually didn't hit for quite a while. I think it's more of you immediately saw like the support and resources coming in. You're like, holy cow, like it just feels good to have people that got your back essentially,
Yep.
and being on the same team with other companies who are willing to share best practices, who are willing to share equipment, who are willing to fly guys out to help train or jump on calls. Like that was more the realization and the relief that I had once we did it is realizing, okay, we got now a bigger team instead of just us. you know? And companies our age were our size when we sold aren't necessarily staffed over heavy because you're still wanting to
running
run
lean. Yep.
So, having a lot of these to-dos in the back of your mind that you should have, but you don't have the resources or the people to do it, and immediately having that coverage behind you and help and assistance was like game changer for us. So
Oh yeah, especially like, hey, this is where we see the company heading over the next 12 to 24 months. And, them having the ability to, help us out monetarily to get there. Once you get past down a certain amount, it gets hard to just continue to grow and continue to grow. You need to have an incredible banking relationship. You need to not only just that, but like a very strategic plan. They need to be able to divulge tons of money into you and based on like what you're projecting. And so it's nice when you've got a partner like that in the background and it's able to, help massage some of that stuff and make it a little bit easier.
Right, and people who've been there and done that and are further ahead, and that's why it's cool to be part of this network. Is like some of these guys that we're key players with,
they're so far. Yeah,
they're way farther ahead and where we want to be. So they're here to help us and tell us stuff they've gone through already. In the past that we should skip over. To take to the next level. So it's just awesome, man. Just being part of that and the network. And what I noticed too is a lot more right off the bat when we closed. We had some good customers that were pretty concerned. We still partner with a couple, national companies, but they definitely were concerned. We made the announcement and, it took a couple hard conversations, but really at the end of the day, what's great about Pave America is they let you run your business. So we're still going after, our target clients as national pavement partners. We're still trying to provide them the best service. So that's the conversations that we had with a couple of these.
It was all on the
customers.
delivery of how the messaging on that piece as well too.
Right. Like we're not just because you're a national company doesn't mean we're competition anymore. We still want to do work for you. Like we want to help you out. We want to take care of it. Like, cause at the end of the day, it's revenue for you guys, revenue for us. We want to keep our reputation. So seeing that, and then also like I've been seeing more and more, negativity surrounding companies being bought by, private equity companies.
Oh yeah. and I get it. Sometimes these companies that have been around for long, generations and generations where, maybe it's not even the owner, but it's been passed down from the father to the son.
Right.
Where it can be hard to digest something of that caliber or magnitude. I guess it depends on how you look at things. For me, it's like, the legacy is a big piece of it, but the legacy can continue to grow if you choose the right company that you want to partner with, and it can grow that much faster. There's my son is most likely going to be in this industry at some point, and having those conversations and letting people know like, hey, at some point, my son's going to want to be in this industry, so we need to look at when he gets old enough, how do we get him fit into a crew, or how do we do this or do that, because it's nice. And then at the same time for us, Like, say you ever wanted to move, please don't. Say you ever wanted to move, like you could, and you could probably go fit in at another place, almost anywhere around the country at
Really?
this point,
Yeah.
and make yourself valuable and have a really, really sweet position.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to when you start your business, or if you're the owner, figuring out what you want. Like, there's no right and wrong answer, because everyone starts businesses for different reasons.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so for people to get offended almost that we or whoever makes the choice to sell the company, it doesn't make sense to me, man. Like, it's because it doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
It does you as the other person opposing. Like, it's a choice that is completely dependent on what the owner wants. So whether you want to keep it and pass it down generation to generation, whether you want to sell and exit one day, whether you want to let it just dissipate one day, like, that's all up to you.
But you want to build something that's worth money, right?
Right.
And so, like, we're all doing this for a reason, not for
100%.
target practice. And you want to build something that's worth money. It's only worth money if somebody wants to purchase it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what else is it?
Yeah.
It's money in the bank, but you're still doing the work forever.
Yep.
You know, to keep it moving at that pace. So it's only worth what people want to pay for.
100%.
You know?
So, bottom line, it's everyone's choice on what they want to
Yeah.
do. But, for us, I've seen quality go up. I've seen the talent of people that we've been able to bring in the doors go up. I've seen, profit margins improve. We got tons of new equipment that we're bringing in and rolling out. Like, it's been nothing but positive. It's been hard, don't get me wrong, in the sense of trying to do the integration and the due diligence with the day-to-day stuff, but it has all been well worth what we've put into it.
I agree. If there was anything I would have changed at all throughout the process, it would probably be aligning it to a point, and it's not even necessarily that it's always possible to do, because it depends on where the investors are at, but maybe lining it up with the time of season where we're rounding fall out.
Right.
Just to where you're not completely, it's doable no matter when, but like that would have been the nicest time for us.
Yeah, I think so too. So, but it's all right. It worked out the way it did, and
sure did.
And I'm glad it wasn't really any later than when it happened.
Yep.
We were hoping for an earlier push, but just it takes a long time to divulge and all that.
We're still seeing stuff getting closed now.
Yeah.
Like new partners, and not small companies. I mean, large businesses too, and like the fact that they're moving at the pace that they are still just says a lot about it.
It does, yeah. And the number one thing for Pave America is safety. And that's something that really is cool, that they put that much emphasis on the safety, where, I'll be honest, in construction, it's kind of, because it is so fast paced, that kind of is like an afterthought. Like, you need to do it, but at the end of the day, you have other.
You need to be safe, but it's also like everyone's forefront is like production.
Right.
And when you move safety up to the front and production afterwards, what's crazy is our production has actually gotten better from it.
100%.
Like, it has brought better people in. It's raised the bar for us in so many different ways, and I'm extremely grateful for it too.
I am too. It's been great.
Yeah.
So, and it's just one of those things that you don't realize makes a big difference, that you don't really think about, and then boom, all of a sudden you start really going after it and really leaning into the safety part of it, and sure enough, like, stuff blossoms out of that. For people who don't know how like companies are kind of valued, you want to give like kind of a simple breakdown of how companies come up with that?
So it's based on your EBITDA, earnings before taxes, interest, depreciation,
Amortization.
Yeah. So essentially, like, your net revenue from your P&L, and then you can take a bunch of add backs and put them back in as well too.
As the owner, and what would like an add back be?
Yep, your depreciation as well too. So it's you. This is your baseline on how you figure out, roughly what you could be worth. And so, basically, you're taking what you've made, what you've accumulated over, a 12-month span, and then you're taking your add backs. Like, for me, there were a few different things that we were running through the company that we were able to put back in, which helped quite a bit. And then you take that, and then there's a multiplying factor from there. And, it changes so frequently. I won't even speak on what it is. I'm sure everybody in the industry has heard, or at least gotten some parameters. I will say that they have come down a little bit over the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So if you guys are looking to exit, I would maybe look to do it sooner than later. I don't know that. I'm not in the PE space to know if they're going to continue to go back up. But you take that multiplier and you times it by your EBITDA number. And that's essentially going to give you what your company is worth at that moment, or close to. There's a lot of different considerations, because then afterwards there's the due diligence process. They go back through and run through every ounce of everything. You have to make sure that you have some way to at least prove some sort, if there were add backs and they were personal expenses that should be put back in, that they are not going to be reoccurring charges moving forward, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of like the breakdown of how company gets valued. And then I think, the terms are all different for every single deal that they do. Like sometimes they want the owner to stay on, sometimes the owner can leave, sometimes there's extra earn out periods that you have to do. Like it all just depends on the circumstance and the deal, which is something that you could negotiate as the owner with them.
Totally.
Sometimes
I was ready to
be off into the sunset. Yeah.
Totally. But the more I got through the process, the more I got to know the people, the more I've got to work with some of the other presidents along the way. I'm like, man, this is actually a really, really cool thing. The plan is and always has been for you to, absolutely take the torch. I will gladly hand it over whenever everybody's ready. And I think but at the time, for the time being, I'm like, man, I actually am enjoying what we're doing right now. It changed my perspective 180 degrees, because I was ready to go do something different. So
yeah, I remember you talking about that. And
breath of fresh air.
Yeah, 100%. I think just seeing the relief of the support probably made that change for you a little bit, and seeing where the whole platform is going is exciting too. And being part of that, it's super exciting. What would you say was probably the hardest part of the whole process?
The hardest part for sure is the last 2 weeks getting to close. It's just like buying a house or selling a house. That's what I would compare it to, but it's harder than that. It's making sure that everybody is checked off. What were those? It was the piece through the due diligence, actually, where we had to write down every single thing that we had known. Was the gosh,
I can't remember what it's called, but
there's a fun part about this whole thing. That's probably the hardest part. But it's very doable. You get through it, and you have people that help you through it, and then at the end, you're give yourself a big pat on the back.
Yeah, it is the last 2 weeks. I agree, because you think you've supplied every report, everything, and then there's still more because they got to get approval from their lenders,
and rightfully so.
Right.
If I was spending that money on something, I would want to verify, and put some checks and balances in the place of making sure that what I'm looking at is exactly what has been portrayed to me.
Yeah.
And so it's not a bad thing. At the end of the day, you want to be a part of an organization who is doing strong due diligence along the way, either way, because it's good business moves for you.
Right.
Anyways, right?
Yeah. And you can really tell, if you start getting in initial conversations, you can kind of tell, you got to the people that you're meeting with on the other side, the other companies. So we went to dinner with a couple of them, and, we loved our conversations with PA. Not to say we didn't love the other ones too, but you feel a certain comfortability level, which I think translates to what it's really going to be like.
Yeah.
And also not being afraid to ask, what's their vision, what's their mission, what's their approach, so you understand kind of what you're getting into. So just like we were talking about the different buying approaches for these private equity companies, some buy just to acquire market share. They just want to get rid of you out of the market, and that's when they'll cut your workforce, and
they'll roll you up and throw you under another face, like
Right.
the base entity for that region or that specific area.
Yep. Or there's ones like PA where they're trying to build a large platform and they want to continue to grow and want to continue to add companies, add people, add equipment. And like, it's just, you got to ask because sometimes their vision does not align with what you want to be part of. And then, a big concern of ours was our staff. Like there was rumors flying around from other paving companies that we were selling all of our equipment and going out of business.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Psych. And I mean, like all these guys in the industry, they talk, especially like in our space. I'm sure it's just like that with every market out there. But, you got to really assure your team when you can discuss about it because you kind of got to keep it, under wraps for a while. Mm-hmm. When you can discuss it, you got to ensure that nobody's leaving. That's why I think the way we rolled out and announced it and having the kickoff party / announcement was the perfect way to do it because, everyone kind of had a sense of relief of, okay, well, I'm not losing my job. And like, here's the benefits that I'm going to get personally and as an employee that's coming in.
And they've gotten so much better too. Like it's been awesome. So
100%.
Yeah, it's been really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different ways to look at this. If you're a small business and you're looking to eventually be acquired or exit at some point, there's commercial brokers that will put your business up for sale and they'll connect you with people in PE or even private buyers that are looking to acquire a business in your space. There's so many different investment groups that are always looking, but we're in a tight enough sector that if you're looking, it's probably not super hard to find somebody who is buying right now.
Yep.
We're just in that time in our industry. So I think we're going to get more and more and more. We're going to see more of this. It's not going away.
No, not at all.
I think like it's going to get stronger.
Just in the trades in general, even like HVAC and those other sectors of the trades are getting more and more attention from private equity because they are, very lucrative and profitable businesses. There's a lot of, assets and stuff that they got to work through with all the equipment and trucks and people and stuff like that. But we're definitely in the right space, being in the contracting space for something if you do want to exit.
Yep.
So
absolutely. So without being a dead horse, it's been nice catching back up on here.
Right.
I think, it's nice to kind of clear the air a little bit and then also, just talk about the partner that we brought in and Big Brother, I guess you could call it. Big Brother.
Big Brother PA.
But yeah, we'll be back within a few weeks.
Yeah.
Now
you
that
said every other week was like the minimum. So
every other week minimum.
We'll try to drop this sometime. I don't know, David, what do you think? Tomorrow will be good?
Make it work. Keep it running.
Yeah, so we'll get this rolling, and we're excited. And if you guys have any topics or anything you guys want to talk about, comment on YouTube, send us an Instagram message. We'll be happy to do that. I would love to start bringing on some of our PA other subsidiary companies too, and get some of the owners on here because
even some of they've got some other just like really good people that I've met along the way too,
right.
that are like in operations or top salesmen that have been just absolutely cleaning house.
Right.
People that are making a shitload of money.
Yep.
Just in sales roles or different roles within the business, and I think they would be fun to have on. So
we'll bring them on.
Things quite a bit for us.
100%. We got a ton of people to talk to. So
we'll bring in the big dogs at some point.
Amen. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Another episode of Apps and Asphalt. We'll see you next time.
All right.